From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. cptallybar.com. That is the website. QR code should be on your screen, whether you're watching us on YouTube or on your phone, mobile device, whatever. Pull out your phone. I guess if you have a second phone, like a bat phone. Do you have two phones, Corey? You just roll with one.
Just the one. I think it's a little weird to have two. I'm not quite sure what would be the point of it. So I just have the one.
All right. Well, yeah, if you have the camera app open, just, hit the QR code. Takes you right to the website. And check out the specials. We actually had a brain trust meeting. Sans, Jeff, and Tom, they're also part of the brain trust. But Corey, myself, Gene, Ira, we met at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, where all great statesmen meet under the same flag in Tallahassee for a little bit of a working lunch at the California wrap. Solid.
Good, right?
Solid.
Yeah. I had the quesadilla. It was great. And the service was good, right? You got your water. You got
Absolutely.
your water filled up as much as you wanted.
Yeah, well, that's, they keep coming over. Are you okay, Mr. Clark? Is everything all right, Mr. Clark? How are you, Mr. Clark? Can we do anything else up there,
Sure.
Mr. Clark?
Exactly right.
Also, this weekend, if you're in a fighting mood, to at least watch a fight. We don't pick fights. We're a peaceful-going people. UFC will be televised at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. So take your appetite, take your friends, behave. But you can check out the fight if you want.
It's one of the big ones. It's like the pay-per-view stuff that they have every once a month. Can't tell you who's fighting. Who's
Gate
on
G
the
and somebody. Gate G and I think a Brazilian fighter.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you guys are into that, walk in there for free and watch it because it is free. There is no cover. So that's cool if you want to go watch that instead of having to pay for it. Put on your Affliction shirt, get in there, and just have at. But no fights, please. Just because you're watching fights doesn't mean you start fights.
All right, well, let's get to it. Renegade Express edition of the program. But in the interim between the time that we last met and the time that we're doing the show, softball put another feather in their cap. Were you 30-0? They went 30-0 in non-conference softball this year?
Yeah. They're 16-5 right now in the ACC, and they're 30-0 non-conference. And again, they beat Florida twice. They beat Oklahoma State twice. They played like Tennessee and UCLA.
Yeah.
I mean, they played some heavy hitters. It was not just them beating up on like Stetson. I mean, not that the baseball team beats up on teams like Stetson, but yeah, they played a really hard non-conference schedule and went 30-0. And again, not run ruling them either. Like their last 3 wins, all at home, were all 2-1. But yeah, man, that's what they do. They find a way to win close games, and they find a way to beat good teams.
That was Janai Kerr walked it off. Home run at the bottom of the 7th.
Yep. 2-0 pitch. Was sitting on something she said about Bell High is what she was looking at, and she smoked that thing. It was a fun game, man. It was I think it was like 1,760 paid. But then you've been there. You've seen it when the parking deck and the people on the grassy knoll behind the left field fence. I mean, there's another 300-400 people out that haven't paid that are watching. It was it was a really cool atmosphere.
And I think they would pay. If they had bleachers out there, I think people would pay to, like, if you made people pay $2-3 to sit on the grass and all, I think they would happily do it. I don't think people there are freeloading. That's just they love this team. They want to be able to watch it however they can.
Well, and it was sold out.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
The people that still wanted to watch the game had a vantage point to watch the game. So, yeah, you're right. Put some bleachers out there.
All right, well, let's get to it then. We're recording this on Thursday for your Friday enjoyment, so it is Cinco de Mayo. I did ask a Cinco de Mayo related question to try to elicit as many questions as I possibly could, asking if they go with the soft or the hard shell, if their margaritas are frozen or on the rocks. So we might have some of those answers later on in the show, so it'll all make sense. I also asked them what they think about NIL. Are they nervous? Do they think that we're about to get a hold on it? So just putting everything in context. We start off with JT Noles, 2K2. Saw him at the baseball game on Saturday this past weekend. Shout out to JT Noles. Hey, Aslan and Corey, wake up. My question for the week is this. Rank Florida State's wins over Florida in the 1990s in order from worst to best. Or let's just say most enjoying to maybe less impressive. Maybe it's the best way to say that, right? His pick for the best win in the 90s over the Gators was 98. Perfect revenge for the last 2 times. he might argue 93. He'll allow choke at Doak. And then 96 and 99 are also in competition for the best. How would you rank the Dubs? As always, thank you for answering my questions. Support the sponsors and the players that have their merchandise and YouTube accounts. Go Noles.
Yeah, I would say probably 93 would be mine because it got them to the national championship game. They kind of dominated the game, but then let Florida get back in it in the fourth quarter, and then Ward to Dunn happened, and it's an all-time great play in Florida State history, and they end up winning a national championship. 98 was an awesome game, and it stopped their brief, whatever that was, 2-game losing streak against the Gators, but it was also, they didn't end up winning the championship. They got into the game, but they didn't win it. But that, like we talked about last week, I think that was a really loud crowd. So I would say 93 and 98 would probably be the most enjoyable. And I'm, in hindsight now with 26 years in the rearview mirror, I'm going to go and say 96 was the least enjoyable because you had to go play them again.
Yeah.
At the time, it was great. It was awesome. Sorry, Gators, you're never going to win a championship. You can't beat Florida State in Tallahassee. But then you had to go play them again a month later, and that didn't work out well.
I'm always a bit partial because I wasn't at the stadium for those games. I'm always a little bit partial, obviously, whenever we beat them in that dump. Because it's on CBS, there's just a little bit more added gravitas, I feel like, when it was televised on CBS. It was nighttime, the second half of the 99 game. 93 was like a 1 p.m. kickoff. So
yeah, noon. It was noon. Yeah.
So I like a little bit of the nighttime aesthetic too. Then the person, isn't that somebody threw a lemon on the field in 99?
What?
Did they throw a lemon on the field at the Swamp in 99? Or was that 2000 in Tallahassee? Someone threw a lemon on the field. Wasn't that in the Swamp one year? Because they didn't want us to go to the Orange Bowl. They were trying to ruin our hopes.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. It could have been 99, I guess. But they played in the Sugar Bowl that year, so they wouldn't have thrown a lemon on the field then.
Well, yeah, because if you throw a lemon at sugar, then you're just making lemonade at that point. But yeah, just Seabass heckling them, taunting them.
Yeah,
that was nice.
So you're picking the 99 one.
I'll put 99 just to be a contrarian.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good one. That's a good one too.
Your answer's right. Mark down in Naples, wake up. For Cinco de Mayo down here, we make skinny margaritas. It's just tequila, fresh lime, and freshly squeezed oranges. Maybe a splash of agave. It's the best. Corey, it's right up your alley.
Okay. All right.
I don't think we should stress too much about NIL right now. It is ultimately what it is. It needs congressional oversight. And when will Congress do something about it? 3, 4 years from now? I'm probably going to write a letter to my constituent in Congress and see where it goes. Hopefully others will do the same. Send me a copy of whatever you send yours, Mark, and I'll send it to mine.
Yeah, we'll all sign it. We'll do that.
Gentlemen, Corey, Aslan, I want to congratulate you on the interview with Norvell. It was fantastic and real. What other coach does that? Norvell has a tough task ahead of him. The schedule isn't necessarily easy, yet every game is winnable. When's the last time we could say that? I don't even want to predict W's and L's anymore. It's exhausting. Tell me about it, Mark. What game on the schedule, which may be a coin flip, do you think we just go in and kick some rear end? Like a dominating win. I'm thinking it could be Louisville on the road. We have that bye week after LSU in New Orleans. Just go up there and snatch their soul. Go Noles, love you guys. Trying to get my wife to agree to retire to Tallahassee when the boys are out of the house. She's hesitant. It's become a bit of a healthy argument. Any advice?
A healthy argument. Those are nice. That sounds like an oxymoron. To get to Tallahassee.
You're in Naples, Mark. Why would you not want to
retire
don't. Naples?
Well, yeah, Naples seems like the perfect place to retire. I feel like you're doing it backwards. Yeah. But Tallahassee. The gas stations are great. Top of the line. They are getting
Wawa's coming.
Wawa's coming. Yeah, and a cookout. So you got those two things you can put in the argument to flip a couple pros to put there. You've got corner pocket. You're closer to us. You can save money on all the travel to the football games because it's right down the road. The beach is 30 minutes away, right? It's August is really pleasant. When you get that, I know you're used to that ocean breeze. Wait till that's not around and it's just straight Florida heat. It really gets your body flowing. So there's a lot of pros to Tallahassee, and the people are great. Legitimately, I never thought I would live in Tallahassee, even when I was coming here as a kid to all the football games. But yeah, it's my home now. And it will when Brady gets when Brady gets out of the house up in Atlanta, I would assume I'll be moving here full time because I really have taken to it. Yeah, once Brady's out of the house and he's the starting shortstop at Florida State, I want to be down here anyway. But I would assume I'd sell my place up there and just live here full time because Stephanie's here.
Okay, that's right. Shout out to her for graduating, by the way, and her new endeavors.
Yeah, we're excited. She graduated. Yeah, we talked about she graduated on Sunday. Her second master's, got the highest honors as a single mom. Well, not really a single mom because the kids stay with the dad every other week. But when she's got them, she's a single mom. I didn't want to say single mom because that diminishes what the dad does, and the dad is in their life half the time, just like me. It's our situation. So anyway, that's too much. That's a little too personal, but whatever. But she did get her second master's, and she's very excited about a new job that she will be starting very soon. So it's been a fun month for her, other than her maybe tearing the meniscus in her knee. But we'll see how that goes.
Can't have it all. All right, what do you think coin flip wise? Florida State is most likely to perhaps surprise and just go in and dominate.
I like the Louisville one. That's not a bad guess because you do get that week off, and maybe you're riding high with confidence after a big win against LSU. I think that could be a good one, and also maybe Wake Forest. I don't know why. I feel like maybe Hartman's going to get his yards in some points, but maybe you beat him like 41-20. Maybe you're due for one of those, right? So maybe you just open up a can on the Demon Deacons.
I wonder if this team is built. It's a new age ACC, like to go in and win a game by 3 scores. They kind of did that to UNC this past year, right?
Yeah. We didn't see that coming.
No, we did not see.
And they had a 5th round quarterback on their hands that you somehow beat.
Oh man. I want to really go crazy and say Florida, but I think LSU. Just don't know about LSU right now. And they're going to be favored, and I think we'll call it a coin flip. But if their quarterback play isn't going to be all that great, which I don't suspect it will be, Florida State's got a big edge in that one. You go in there and you win by 13. I'll call that kicking rear end.
Okay, all right. You're talking about a 13-point win over the Tigers. Okay, I'm with you, Aslan. Make it happen.
All right. Let's go to our guy Derek, XDQ004, which shout out, by the way, threw some doll hairs our way, some money on the super chat with Michael Langston's recruiting chat. Thank you, Derek. You're the dude. Wake up! No comment this week, just a question. We like it that way. We like questions. There we go. Which of these 3 things, so he's given us a list of 4, which of these 3 things would most likely result in 9 or more wins? Also support the sponsor, support the brand, go Noles. All right, so which of these 3 things most likely to result in 9+ wins? The options, so I guess we're picking 3 out of these 4.
Okay.
Pass for 3,000 yards, rush for 2,500 yards. These next 2 are crazy. 48 sacks, 30 turnovers.
The last 2 for sure.
Yeah.
If you're averaging, 2.5, forcing 2.5 turnovers per game, you're doing some things. And I would say, the 48, and then the first one, the 3,000 yards passing. I mean, if 48 sacks is a lot.
That's incredible.
I guess they had. Yeah, I don't know what they had last year. I can look that up real quick. I mean, it might have been close to that, but 48 sacks is a lot. But that would be if they had 48 sacks. That means they don't miss Jermaine Johnson at all. Like the pass rush is better. Their pass defense is better. So that is a huge number. Where that would absolutely take a win total from 7 to 9. I think.
I mean, if they had 20 turnovers. That would be incredible, I feel like. They had 33 sacks last year. So 15 more sacks. I mean, basically an additional sack every game.
That would be nice. And then how many turnovers?
Does that show up in the stats I'm looking at here?
Let's see. They had 14 interceptions as a defense.
16 fumbles, 6 fumbles lost by the opposition.
So they had 20 turnovers. So an extra.
All right.
So an extra 10.
That's huge.
Man, absolutely, man. That's an extra 2. I mean, imagine Notre Dame if Notre Dame had thrown 2 picks.
Yeah.
You win that game. Same thing with, name all of them. Jacksonville State. If that great quarterback had just thrown one more interception, then you probably win that game. So, but so 10 an extra 10 turnovers turns what I view as a 6-6 team definitely into a 9-win team. In fact, I'm going to say if you got 3 of those things, 48 sacks almost is too much. That's outlandish. We can't. But if you got the other 3 things, 3,000 yards passing, 2,500 yards rushing, and so that's an extra 1,000 yards of offense than you didn't have last year. So that's almost 80 extra yards a game, which would be a great improvement. That puts you probably in the top 30 in the country in offense. So if you got those 2 things on offense and the 30 turnovers, that's a 10 or 11 win team. 30 turnovers is a ton, and that changes the game. Your offense goes from bad to good, and you get that turnover luck where you're changing the game with these turnovers, 2 or 3 a game. Yeah, I think that becomes, you go from 6-6-ish to 10-2-ish probably.
Yeah. Crazy enough, there's on the NCAA's website, you can't find out who had the most sacks. You can find out who allowed the most sacks, but not who registered the most
that's
sacks.
Weird.
Which is,
get it together, NCAA.
Figure it out, guys. Island Chief, wake up! I have read that Robert Scott projects as a first-round draft pick next year. Interesting. You guys saw the practices for the last 3 preseasons. You have watched players develop physically in technique, execution, schemes, play sheets, team depth, segments, toughness, and for what it's worth, culture. And how many of those areas do we look like a 10-win team? Thanks as always for the information and smiles, Island Chief.
Hey, you got it, Island Chief.
Whew, that's a good question, man.
I don't know about the Robert Scott thing. That seems a bit of a reach at this point from what he's done on the field. But hey, you never know. He might get bigger, stronger, and better. And that'd be great. Imagine Florida State having a first-round pick as an offensive tackle. What were the things that we had to culture? What were the other ones?
Physically, technique, executions, the schemes, depth, certain segments, toughness. How many of those areas does this look like a 10-win team?
Not many.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, because I always wonder that at practice. Like they'd have good days, they'd have days not as good, and then it's like, well, isn't this, if you're a 500 team, if you're a 7-win team, isn't this what you'll look like? Or like, what makes, how does Michigan look? Maybe Michigan's not a good pick because they were a playoff team, but like, who's like a perennial 10-win team that doesn't really compete for a national title? And like, I wonder how they look at practice. Could they look that much better than Florida State does? But you don't think, not a lot of those areas don't seem like what a 10-win team would look like in your estimation? Yeah,
no, I do like, and people roll their eyes, but I do like the culture and I do like the toughness. I think that's there. I think that's been instilled. But again, you don't have a ton of special players. And I think to go from 6 wins to 5 wins, to double your win total in a season, you've got to have some absolute special game-changing players, like, say, a Travis Hunter. But people like that, people that can change the game, just guys that other people don't have. Mm-hmm. Like, you can say, like, I remember this, there was a quote that Bobby Bowden had, speaking of the 93 Florida game, when he was talking about that game afterwards. He talked about, he's like, man, Florida's really good. He was like, we knew Florida was really good. And when I watched the 2 teams on film, and this is Bowden saying this, is like, we were even everywhere. They had a good defense. We had a good defense. They had a good offense. We had a good offense. We had a okay kicking game. They had an okay, like all this stuff. It's like, it was really evenly matched, but we had Charlie and they didn't. And he goes, that's what I kept telling myself as we kept watching film throughout the week and game planning, is we have Charlie and they don't. And Florida State doesn't have, though, and I know Charlie was a Heisman Trophy winner and one of the best college quarterbacks of all time, but they don't have those kind of guys necessarily where you're like, you know what? They just don't have a Jermaine Johnson. This team does not have a Jermaine Johnson. I'm talking about if you're looking at the opponent. They don't have those guys that are just absolutely special where you're like, yeah, they can game plan all they want. They're even here. They're better than us here. We're better than them there. It's an even matchup, but we have these 2 dudes that they just don't have, and that will probably win us the game. And they don't have that yet. So that, to me, execution, scheme, all that, you've got to get a couple just dudes, man. Just some special players in here. And I'm not saying they're not on the roster right now, but I think the guys that could turn into that are young, and we don't know it yet. There are no proven dudes on this team. Jamie Robinson is a very good college football player. He is not a guy that just absolutely, we can't beat. He's not a Sean Taylor. He's not a guy that's just going to go win you a game, but he's a very good college football player.
But Wake doesn't have those guys. Louisville doesn't have those guys. NC State doesn't have those guys. I don't feel
those aren't. Well, NC State has one at quarterback, and so does Wake. You know, I mean, they do. And maybe Louisville does too with that kid. He put up huge numbers last year. I think they got some special dudes calling the shots. At least 2 of those 3 schools do. And Florida State, we'll see. I hope this guy is it. I hope Jordan Travis can turn into a guy that can raise the bar to a 9 or 10 win season. He's certainly good enough to get you 7 or 8 though. But yeah, I just think, you gotta that's the next step, is getting a couple dudes in here that are just elite college football players. They have some good ones, perhaps some really good ones. I don't know necessarily that they have anybody that's elite right now. Well, I guess we'll find out in the Superdome. Or whatever it's called. Is it still the Superdome?
Caesars. It's the Caesars Superdome, but it's still the Superdome nonetheless.
So it's not Mercedes-Benz anymore.
No, it's Caesars.
Okay,
now.
It's the Caesars. Okay, nice.
Yeah, I guess being this far away now, way removed from the season, we would talk about it every Monday. But I guess looking back on the games, it didn't feel like they were handing in incomplete work. Like it didn't seem like they went in there unprepared and had bad schemes. It did seem, at least on defense first half of the year, it felt like they just didn't know what they were doing. That felt like a crisis in coaching.
Until the second half of the Louisville game.
Yes.
I thought I legitimately thought, because we did that thing with Norvell that I hope you guys have watched, that Mark was nice enough to mention, and go back and watch on YouTube where we break down that press conference after the Louisville game. But that Louisville game at halftime, I remember Ira's like, "What? I need to find another line of work." It looked like a 1-11 team. They were getting boat raced by an average Louisville team and giving up 31 points and 360 yards and a half to Louisville. Not Lamar Jackson Louisville, just Louisville. And then the next half, they held them to like 3 first downs and 80 yards of offense. And from that moment on, they were a decent defense, right?
Right.
Not overpowering, not suffocating, not top 10, but they were a top 30-ish type defense the rest of the way, I thought.
And then offensively, there wasn't a lot of play calls that just made you scratch your head. Some of the fourth down stuff, we'll just have to kind of agree to disagree. I'm in the minority on it. I get it, metrics and all that sort of stuff points to you doing that. But it did feel like, man, they probably don't have what they want out wide. They probably don't have what they want in the trenches. And they've addressed at least out wide. They did it to the best of their ability. They obviously lost Winston Wright, so that's a bummer. We'll see how much Caden Lyles can make a difference. But it did seem like they were pieces away from getting to that, and they added those pieces. And we saw them play in the spring, and some of them looked a little bit better and more encouraging than others. But, yeah, in terms of like a 10-win team, I don't know if they've got the depth at certain segments, but maybe just not all the weapons you need. It's not a scheme thing here. But it does make me wonder how these AAC coaches have these great offenses in their conference, and then they come to Power 5, and for some reason it doesn't work. So maybe it is scheme, but it doesn't. It never struck to me as something like what egregious,
No, I think the scheme is fine. I definitely think Norvell knows what he's doing when it comes to offense. I just think to get to 10 wins, you would have to get really lucky.
Yes.
A couple of times, because it's the margin of error. You don't when you're not loaded with first round picks or NFL picks, period. The margin of error is so thin when it comes to winning or losing a game. You make a 4th and 14 against Miami. If you don't make that throw, you lose that game. Same thing with Boston College. It comes down to these last plays because and the refs, because the margin of error is so thin. So look, man, Florida State in the 90s, the ACC refs, it was literally 11 on 17 or 11 on 18 at times. Like those refs felt bad for the teams that Florida State was pummeling, but they were so good it did not matter at all. They'd have 120 yards in penalties and win by 40 points. They're not even close to that margin of error anymore. So if you get a bad whistle like Florida State did in Boston, you almost blow a huge lead because you're still not quite there to overcome stuff like that. So get really lucky, maybe you get to 10 wins. I definitely think they're tougher, and they're obviously a much better team and program than they were 2 years ago. So let's see how much better when the fall gets here.
Yo, you hear that? That's the sound of the hottest new club. The Zaxby's Signature Club Sandwich. It's everything you love about our original sandwich, but, clubbier. hand-breaded chicken, bacon, and cheese, and your choice of Zax sauce or spicy Zax sauce. Try one today with fries and a drink. Only at Zaxby's. Can we turn it down now?
And don't forget to listen in for the Zaxby's indescribably good Player of the Week every Monday on Wake Up Warchant.
Spartan Noles 71, that's Ralph in Hawaii. Aloha, guys. How's it? For me, I go crunchy tacos over soft every day of the week, though steak fajitas are my go-to when we fiesta. I don't do margaritas. Instead, I do equal parts 7-Up, ginger ale, and orange juice. I usually go unleaded, but if I decide to add the octane, it's Seagram's Extra Dry Gin. Corey, It would probably go really well with your vodka also.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad. That doesn't sound bad at all.
Aslan, nice job with the Corey and Coach bromance video. This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Amen.
Last year, when NIL was born, I wrote in asking what you guys thought the next step would be. Corey said he thought a bowl game revenue share. I said unionization based on my belief, this is Ralph, that the previously failed attempt by the Northwestern players would get reintroduced. Now we have out-of-control NIL, players literally being bribed into changing schools, and today's headline, and this was from Wednesday, said that Ohio State was looking to withdraw from the NCAA altogether. In football, I think that's what Gene Smith was saying. Anyhow, I ask again, what do you think our beloved college athletics looks like in 2 to 3 years? Love you guys. Mahalo. Go Warchant. Oorah. Oh, 2-3 years, I think it'll still look kind of similar to this. You think, Corey? I don't know how much of a. I'm hoping they'll have regulations put in place and enforced strictly in the next 2-3 years. But maybe I'm not that optimistic. But eventually,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the step that has to be done at some point is the NCAA is going to have to just say yes, they're employees, and yes, they can.
They're not.
I mean, otherwise, what do you do? Then how would this ever stop? How would you ever regulate what a person can make in a capitalist society? What a person can make on the open market? Jordan Addison, it is an open market. He can transfer the Pitt wide receiver can transfer anywhere he wants and get paid whatever he wants. Because there is absolutely no regulation. Now, if he had gone to Pittsburgh and signed a contract that said you're beholden to us for 3 years and you're allowed to make whatever money you can make, but this is a contract and you cannot break it. And if you break it, we're going to sue you. That's the only way this can be wrangled, I think. I don't know why would Jordan Addison not go do what he's doing right now? There's no guarantee that kid's going to be a superstar in the NFL. But right now he's got Texas, USC, and Alabama and whoever else, slobbering all over him and offering them maybe seven, not 8 figures. That would be nuts, but 7 figures to come play football. Who among us wouldn't be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's actually pretty intriguing. I think I might go take that offer and go play football for you guys for $1.8 million or $2.6 million or whatever deal you've given me. But until there's a contract that they sign that they have to, it's binding, this will keep on happening. And I don't know how you get contracts that are binding unless you somehow tie them to the school. And when they come to your school, they are your property. Much like Sam Howell is the property of the Washington Commanders. I'm just going to keep harping on Sam Howell being a 5th-round pick. I don't know why. He did nothing. He did do something to me. He backtracked on the commitment. He's committed for a year and then just goes somewhere else.
He blew it twice to us, though. He gave us the 2 best
Well,
wins.
That's right. The 2 best wins of the Norvell era. I mean, Sam Howell is the property of the Commanders. Jermaine Johnson is the property of the Jets. It has to be where A.Z. Thomas is property of Florida State for the next 3 years. And you pay him accordingly. He's going to get some money, and he's going to have the ability to go make more money. Like, you could get him a stipend. They already get a stipend, but whatever the contract details are, but also more money with his NIL. But you have to have a contract that binds him to the school. Otherwise, it's just absolute, utter chaos. And it's going to turn fans off, man. It just will. It's just going to turn fans off. Maybe they don't care about that. If I was a player, I certainly wouldn't. I'd go where the money was. I'm not ashamed to admit that. But literally, if USC's offering me $2 million and Pitt's offering me $600,000, what am I doing? What would any of us do? It's of course. But that's the market right now, and that's the problem. Is there's no There's just no way to keep. There's no binding contracts, and we have to figure out a way to get contracts binding now. Now that there's real money at stake.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I'm sorry, Ralph. So
I don't either. I don't know I really don't know what's going to happen. I literally don't. But I know this just does not seem sustainable to the future of the sport, to the health of the sport. It's going to turn off a ton of fans. When you're like, that kid left in the middle of the season. That kid left right before the season. That kid left after he was a freshman All-American. Alabama, the Yankees are just going to come and take our closer. Like that's just what it just doesn't work in any other sport. And all other sports are a little more equitable than this is all, and are a lot more equitable. And it's just something that has to be tackled, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Old Dad's a Nole, which, by the way, gave us 2 questions last week, and I forgot to read both of them, and I don't have the other one from last week. I'm sorry, Old Dad. I love you, man. Wake up. Good morning to the best in the business at what you do. Well, thank you. Thank you, Old Dad. Clearly not the best, though. I don't read your questions. I was wondering, with all these tight ends we have, whatever happened to the tight end position as we knew it? Anyone who was lucky enough to live through the Miami-Florida State rivalry knows the fullback and the tight ends were a major factor. Many are still household names. Now they are almost obsolete in the spread-it-out world that we live in. I get why inferior teams would use the spread-it-out to try and level the playing field. I think the game was better when it wasn't 4.5 hours long and the teams having to pass on 3rd and 1. So I guess my question is, why don't more teams use that pro-style offense anymore? Old Dad.
Yeah, obviously the I formation, you had the Florida State and Miami back in those days. They were a lot of I formation. The fullback was involved, the Edgar Bennett's, the William Floyds, people like that were really, really good football players. And, now it's just you want faster, quicker guys out wide. And look at the numbers. Like the numbers play it out. It's harder to defend. I think that's the main reason. It's harder to defend a spread. Yeah. If you have a quarterback that sees the field and you have some dynamic receivers, it's very, very hard to defend. It just is. It's just, it is. Alabama, like Saban, he was winning championships doing the I formation and running the ball 50 times a game. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to start, and look what he's done the last 4 or 5 years. They've had the best offense in the country with all these incredible wide receivers. So he even against his will almost.
Yeah.
Like kicking and screaming. He's like, we have to do this. We have to spread it out. Just because you can still run the ball out of that and you can still be a physical team, but man, it's the way of it's like the 3-point shot in basketball.
Bingo.
It was for so long that shot wasn't. I looked at a stat line because I'm watching the Lakers, the winning time thing on HBO, which apparently they take a lot of liberties with. But they did a game. They did a box score, a recap of the first time the Lakers played the Celtics when Magic and Bird played as rookies. And I was like, I wonder what I'm going to go look at that box score and see how many points they had. And I think Magic literally had a point. And the Lakers still won. But I saw that the whole game, there was 1 3-pointer made, and there were 6 3-pointers attempted. What were they doing? Like, it's worth more points.
Throw it to the post.
Exactly, but it's like it's worth more points. So it took so long, but finally these teams understood. Yeah, these 3-pointers are worth they're worth 1.5 times what a 2-pointer is worth. If we make 10 of these, that's worth what 15 2-pointers. So yeah, it made sense to start featuring the 3-point shot in basketball. And that's why shooters are at a premium. That's why you watch all these games. There's 43 pointers attempted a game. Same thing with football. It didn't make sense in the late 80s. That's why Florida State, man, Bobby Bowden would throw it 25 times, and he was like this pass-happy fool. Like, oh, God, the air raid. He's thrown it 26 times. Meanwhile, Vince Dooley's up at Georgia running it 60 times a game, and that was easier to defend. It just was. So now it's swayed so much the other way where almost every team, you're either an option team because you're a military school, you're triple option, or you're a spread them out. You're a spread team. It's like every offense has it, and I just think it's because they see the analytics. It's the way the football is now with all the 7-on-7, the flag football, everything these kids get growing up. You've got some really dynamic quarterbacks that can get the ball to people that are open, and they're like point guards, and When you have a quarterback that really knows what he's doing, it's an impossible to defend. I will point out, and I'll be done with this stupid answer, Bryce Young, Georgia just had 5 guys drafted in the first round off their defense. The best dude was a sophomore who wasn't draft eligible, Jalen Carter. He'll be a top 5 pick next year. Nakobe Dean was the second best player on the defense. He was like a 3rd-round pick. They had NFL dudes all over that defense. Bryce Young threw for 421 yards in the first game against them. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Man, you can't play defense better than Georgia plays defense. And a great quarterback in a spread offense with good wide receivers torched them. So that's how hard it is to cover the spread if it's done well.
Well said.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it was.
No,
but it was long said.
Well, I said well said. I stand by it.
Okay, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Eric, formerly from Cincinnati, now in Tallahassee. Nole 43. Wake up, Nole gents, Aslan and Corey. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your Cinco de Mayo. Hasn't happened quite yet, but I think it will. I think it will happen.
I think we're going to enjoy it. Yeah.
He's a hard, crunchy taco guy, by the way. I thought he would be a soft guy, Eric, but all right.
What are you?
It depends. Like steak, I need it to be on a tortilla, like a soft, but ground beef needs to be in a hard shell for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think I would ever eat a soft taco with ground beef in it. That's got to be crunchy. But yeah, everything else, chicken and steak, I think I'm going soft.
He's permanently in Tallahassee. He recommends a Mexican restaurant. You guys can check it out on the Tribal Council. They don't pay for me to recommend them. So,
right.
Anyhow, let's talk about that Lady Noles softball team.
Was it L corner pocket?
I wish I knew what corner or pocket was in Spanish. Shout out Spanglish speakers out there. He wants to talk about the Lady Noles softball team. He got to witness it in person on Wednesday evening, taking down the Gators. It was a great night for the game. Nice, cool breeze, great atmosphere, and the ballpark was sold out. We talked about it a little bit at the top of the show, Eric, which I'm sure you've heard. Corey was there. Mm-hmm. Corey wrote about it. Check it out. If you weren't able to attend the game like Eric and you want to really experience it, Corey had a way with his pros to really take us to the Joanne Graff Field, Dr. Graff Field. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what they refer to it as, right? I mean, I know it's the Plex, but the Plex is everything.
Right.
Softball field.
It's both soccer and softball, yeah.
Anything else to add on that? As the summer approaches and the slow period begins, summer clinics will be starting. Football season's just right around the corner. 3 months till kickoff versus Duquesne. Go Noles in all sports. Support Warchant on YouTube and warchant.com. Drink your delicious DeLuna coffee and hit the thumbs up button. Signed, Eric from my new home, Tallahassee, originally Cincinnati.
Yeah, speaking of the softball, so I mentioned I wrote about it in the column, but like I was talking to Lonnie about can you like sit back in the dugout and appreciate that crowd, because they had there was a sign hanging down from the parking deck that said Lonnie for president. They call that Area 51 now, but there were literally over 2,000 people there. It was the 5th largest crowd paid in Florida State history, but that didn't account for the 300 to 500 people that were outside the stadium still watching. And I asked her if she could appreciate, like, just sit in the dugout, even in the midst of a close game against a rival, and appreciate that atmosphere and that crowd and what this program had become and, like, the interest it has and the fan base it's built. And she said, yeah, she goes, and Sydney could too, because Sydney Sherrill's been there this is their 5th or 6th year. She was on the national championship team. So she's like, yeah, Sydney remembers too. Like, people would be parking in that parking lot, and they would say, hey, are you going to the baseball game? Because if you are, park in the parking deck. Why don't you swing it through here and watch a couple innings on your way to baseball? Like, they were kind of begging people to come watch them play 5 or 6 years ago. And now you got a sold-out crowd where people are having to, like, climb the fence to watch the game. It's just been a remarkable rise, and so much of that is obviously everybody loves a winner. But it's the way they play. Just that they do have fun, but they play so well. They're so fundamentally sound. They beat you a bunch of different ways. It's just fun to watch. It's a fun product. And if you look at the ratings for women's softball, the College World Series especially, those are big ratings. I mean, those aren't like it's good ratings for softball. Those are big ratings. It's millions of people watching those things. So it's just cool. I'm sure Lonnie feels it's awesome for Lonnie to be a part of it, the rise of popularity of that sport in this city.
All right, right on. Keeping it with softball for a second, Quinn67, wake up! Softball team is loaded with assassins. Walk-off Jack versus Florida, crushing their spirits. Love it. Football. I'm looking forward to see which players we acquire this offseason and how well our coaches recruit for 2023 through this camp season. I do agree players should be able to do commercials and use their likeness to make money. However, my question is, which I think we all agree to that. I think we all agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're going to wear that number 5 jersey. Jameis should have got some money.
Well, and I brought it up in the NIL video that's on the site right now, on the YouTube site. We did one with Jeff, Ira, Gene, and I brought up Jordan Lynch, although I couldn't remember his name at the time. I think I called him Jordan Lynch, but the kid from Northern Illinois that was the ridiculous Heisman contender. It was nonsense. But anyway, he was a huge star for those 2 years for Northern Illinois. I think he got to New York twice as a Heisman contender.
Really?
Meanwhile, Dalvin Cook never got there, but that's fine. We're not bringing that up. But my point being, Dalvin Cook, after his sophomore year, I made this point too, he deserved money. He couldn't go pro yet. He was clearly one of the best running backs on the planet, and he still had to play another year of football essentially for free, in quotes. He would have been worth, think about the money he could have gotten from local businesses, autograph signings, whatever he wanted to do. He could have made probably high 6 figures or easily, because he was a household name. He was a big-time name.
I don't know. You said about local business. What local business has more
car
than
dealerships, man?
I know, but Peter Boulware's not going to give Dalvin Cook $25,000.
You don't talk about Peter Boulware like that. You don't know what Peter Boulware is going to do.
I asked him for $25,000. If he ain't giving us $25,000.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. Look, there's a million of them. Just autograph. He could just do his own autograph signings and pay $10. Pay him $10 an autograph.
Yeah, but 6 figures. I don't think he would got high. I think maybe he would be able to get, $50,000, $60,000 with all that included, which is nice. You're 20 years old, man, and you're getting everything paid for, and you get a free education. We should not be complaining about that. And I don't care if people are like, well, if the market said it, he should be able to get as much as he should. Well, I don't know, man. Let's see how much nurses are making. Let's see how much school teachers are making.
Well, let's not do that, man. The nurses wouldn't sell products. You're saying Dalvin Cook right now in
better quality of life.
Well, right, but that's of course. I married a teacher. I love teachers. They don't. I wish they got paid more. I wish all those civil servants got paid more.
They don't put 80,000
people in the seats. Yeah, they just don't. They're not a household name like Dalvin Cook. And you're saying you don't think he sells products in Minnesota? Like, why would he would have the whole state of Florida, at least the top half of the state of Florida, where he could sell whatever he wanted. He could be a national spokesman after his second year of Florida State. He was a huge star. Same with Jameis. But my point being, but he got paid anyway. Like Dalvin's doing fine. His bank account is fine. It's more about like the people like Jordan Lynch. He ain't playing football anymore. It was crazy that I think he might have been drafted. I don't remember if he ever played in the NFL. But that dude, his 2 years at Northern Illinois, made that school a ton of money. They were on ESPN all the time. He was a household name playing at Northern Illinois, and he didn't get paid a dime for it. That's the people that I think they really do benefit. These guys that are great college players, I put great in quotes with Jordan Lynch, but you get the point. Household names at the college level that don't have a role, probably don't have a role in the NFL, and they actually can now. Those kind of guys can actually make some money off their name, and appear in commercials and make whatever high 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, depending on what school you're at. They can take care of themselves and actually get paid for their name, image, and likeness. I don't think, to go back to your point, none of us have a problem. Well, maybe you do. I feel like you changed your tune. You started out by saying none of us have a problem with these guys getting commercials.
No,
and then it sounded like you did because you want the nurses to get commercials.
I think the money you're throwing around. I get it. Dalvin was awesome. I love Dalvin Cook. I still don't think Dalvin Cook would have got all that much money. Again, like how much is Garnet and Gold going to give to Dalvin for an autograph sign? Like, they're not going to clunk over $15,000 to have him hang out for an hour. Like nobody is worth that. Like maybe Michael Jordan's worth that. Like there needs to be some sort of market set.
I think what you would do with autographs is they would pay him, I don't know, a $4,000 appearance fee, but then he keeps he charges $10 an autograph.
Yeah,
and you sign 1,000 of them. That's good money. It's $14,000 you just made.
Yeah, you're right.
You can do that once a weekend or once a month. Well, if you do it once a month, now all of a sudden you're at $50,000 just through the fall. So I just. I just think that I'm on board with that. The pay to play is the problem. The paying, just high school recruits are these transfer portal kids that nobody knows. You're paying them to come to your school right now.
All right, we didn't even read the question, which is, did the NCAA actually have it right? As Quinn67 posits. As we have seen in the last year, as soon as the limitations were lifted on earnings, a very public inducement system emerged. Now is seemingly open bidding for players to transfer and players testing the market to get better deals at home, not to mention players demanding better deals. It's too late to go back, but we may look back at this and say, we should have never let this happen. Yeah, we shouldn't have. The NCAA may have been holding back the floodgates. Yeah, no one likes the NCAA. They tried. They did. They lost in the Supreme Court, and at that point, what are you going to do? Go Noles, S. Quinn, 67, class of 93.
I think the what you could say is that the NCAA, if they had any forethought and foresight, they could have, instead of fighting it tooth and nail for 10 years in the legal system, they could have said, you know what, these coaching salaries are outrageous. All this TV money coming in is outrageous, and none of these players getting a portion of it is outrageous. We need to fix it. We need to make it more equitable. They could have had some forethought instead of just stressing a model that, quite frankly, was completely outdated. It was a model from the 50s and 60s. Meanwhile, college football has Bobby Bowden, his first contract was 3 years, $100,000 at Florida State. I mean, Mike Norvell makes $100,000 every 2 weeks. So the game has changed so much and the money has changed so much, but the stipend for the player had remained the exact same. Everything else shot up almost vertical, like a rocket going off, if you looked at it at a graph. The players' compensation.
Pay? Like in corporate America, hasn't that happened with executive pay? Executives are making ridiculous amounts of money compared to what they were making in the 70s and 80s.
I don't think that's been great for the.
Yeah, but if you try to organize that, you're a communist and you're evil. But us sitting here, like, for some reason, we hold up these 19-year-old kids who some of them aren't even academically eligible through parts of the year as like martyrs, and like we should bend over and give them everything possible to make them happy. I can't get behind that.
But they're the product. That's all. They're the product. They're the players. They're doing.
I know. We'll give Mike Norvell the I Am football team for 3 months. They'll probably look decent enough that we'll watch them on Saturday too.
I don't think so, buddy. I don't think that's true. But yeah. So anyway, in my opinion, the NCAA could have had some forethought once the college football revenue skyrocketed out of the universe. And nothing changed. Everybody else got richer and richer and richer, like obscenely rich. These schools started making obscene amounts of money on college football. The coaches, everybody else made, the average assistant salary went up, I don't know, 100-fold in the last 20 years, 30 years. The scholarship payments were the exact same. Now, I know the cost of tuition is going up, but again, man, let's be realistic. These kids aren't being recruited here so they can graduate with an English degree. They're being recruited here to play football because football makes money. When you win games, that makes money. And so it was never equitable that the college coaches, everybody around the sport, got a ton of money, ridiculous money, and the players that were actually playing the sport got none of it. And if the NCAA would have had some forethought ahead of time and said, let's make this more equitable where they get a cut of it, put it away. Let them get a cut of it when they graduate. Whatever you have to do, put some money away for the players that are actually making the money, the players that are actually playing the sport. Put some money away for them. Then maybe this never happens. But it went from, we're not going to pay them at all. Todd Gurley has to sit out 6 games because he made money on some autographs.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah,
right.
Ridiculous.
But so that happened. That was the NCAA 10 years ago. And now the NCAA is do what you want, gang. Good luck. And I know they've come out and said they're going to try to look into these collectives. Good luck trying to enforce that. They don't care anymore. And that's my biggest problem is they went from no to do whatever you want. And this is what we've been left with because there was no forethought and there was no regulation. There was no oversight at all. There was nobody had any.
It wasn't because they're like, you can't use this as an inducement. Like, well, just because you're saying, again, it's the whole thing with your parents.
Of course,
you
can use it as an inducement.
Your parents are like, don't drink anything while we're out of town. Don't have a party. I'm going to throw a party. I mean, what do you want me to do? It's a beautiful house. There's nobody here.
But doesn't it bother you that
I'm not bothered by the coaches.
I'm not talking about the coaches.
I want to go to that real quick. What were they going to do, though? I mean, they said you can't do this as an inducement, and they had no teeth. Listen, the NCAA is lampooned in every corner of the internet. People make their living off just dunking on the NCAA every time anything happens regarding a student athlete. Like, the NCAA is just persona non grata. Everything they do is wrong. I don't know at what certain point do we then all right, we're going to take them seriously now. Now we need them to play hero. We spent 20 years making fun of them, and now we're like, please help us. Like if I was the NCAA, I'd be screw you guys. Like what?
I don't think anybody thinks they're going to do anything. I think one of the other posters said it's got to be congressional. It's going to have to be congressional oversight because I don't trust the NCAA to do anything. I don't trust them to enforce it. I just don't.
Well, even if they enforce, who's these Gene Smith's talking about breaking away from the NCAA. So even the NCAA did something. Well, then all right, we're going to break away and create our own league. And then at that point, so what? SEC, Big Ten, ACC, the Power Five, we combine and we make our 68 whatever team conference. I even think at that point, how are we going to come up with unified rules, and are we going to really be able to enforce them?
Look, man, the NFL does it. The NFL has uniform rules. Why couldn't college football?
Because it's not as tribal. There's an owner. There's an owner. There isn't a president
there's a commissioner.
and an AD.
There's a commissioner.
Well, that too, and there isn't 7,000 boosters running amok and 68 different ADs and 68 different presidents that are on different. The NFL's a moneymaker, man. It's we're playing football, we're making money. Some of these university presidents, like at Stanford, yeah, we'd like to win a football game, but we're trying to cure cancer over here too.
Well, get on it, Stanford. Yeah, I mean, good grief! I just saw somebody else gave them a $1.1 billion endowment for, I can't remember what it was for, climate change or something. I don't know, but it's like, Stanford, all this money you get every year, can you do something besides just producing good rowing teams? I know you love getting those athletic. You win in the Learfield Athletic Trophy, but man, do something positive for the world. Come on, gang. I don't care that you're great at water polo and rowing. Let's and fencing. Do some stuff with that money. But yeah, look, when it comes back to this, I just think that it was so predictable that when it just became this, you could do NIL, that of course the boundaries would be pushed and broken because there's no reason not to. So that it was just what's happening now is pretty darn predictable. Was pretty darn predictable. If you knew it was going to just be laissez-faire attitude. I know I didn't pronounce that right, but I can almost spell it. Laissez-faire attitude when it comes to this. And now look at it, man. But I am genuinely worried about the future of the sport with this. I just am. Not that, I mean, it's again, you cheer for an NFL team. Grady Jarrett just signed another extension with the Falcons. He can't leave in September to go play for the Rams. He just can't. But right now,
they can't either. You can't if you don't put your name in the transfer portal. I mean, you can leave though. He could quit the Falcons.
You can stop playing. Yeah,
but get paid.
Well, yeah, like Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
But he can. But these guys can leave. Look, man, Duke Cooper might want to go play somewhere else next year.
But he hasn't put his name in the portal, so he can't do anything right. He hasn't put his name in the portal.
No, but I'm saying he's not like it used to be when a kid came to your school. He was at your school. You had him for 4 years. You got to watch him to develop. Now you got to pay him to stay.
Well, then you got to maybe take the portal away. Maybe then I don't know. Part of the problem's the portal. Now you're giving these.
Well, it's all of it. It's all of it. And So I mean, look, yeah, you're right. Everybody likes to dunk on the NCAA. I don't know that they can do anything about this. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. I don't know what the answer is. I just think eventually you're gonna have to share. You're gonna have to do some profit sharing, man. You're gonna have to do some profit sharing. You have to treat it like the NFL, man. And you have yourself a dang salary cap. Maybe that happens when you break away. But otherwise, I just don't think this is tenable. I think it's unsustainable to every year you're wondering, okay, which kids in the portal are going to get the most money? Do we bid on that kid while he's still enrolled at North Carolina? Is that tampering? Are we allowed to? Yeah, we're allowed to do whatever we want. It's not good for the sport. Just the unsettledness, it's just not on solid ground at all. You just don't know. You don't know who's going to be on your team from month to month.
The good news is if you've been reading everything on Twitter, all these national outlets, it does seem that we're approaching a tipping point. Administrators, commissioners are bothered by what's going on, and they are trying to figure out some solutions. So that's, we had to kind of sit. No one knew what this was going to look like. And I get your point of them not putting guardrails in place, but we were entering a new world that nobody really, we knew the guys were going to get a little bit over the line with trying to use this as inducement. So we didn't have a full appreciation. Now we're seeing it play out, and then now we know what we're dealing with. So hopefully they figure things out here in the coming months, hopefully, but probably years, to salvage the sport. Because it's too good of a thing to do this to it. Because yes, It could be better. I'm not saying I don't want these players to be struggling, but we need to find some sort of middle ground. Not middle ground, but something practical. This is not practical. All right.
Correct.
I want to keep going on that, but Corey took all of our time on that question. Primetime 92.
Sorry, everyone.
Wake up, Gengelman. I think maybe that's a typo. Yeah, you didn't hit. The T's right above the G. It's fine. Wake up, gentlemen. I want to express my sympathy to Corey with his stomach issues. I, too, am a fellow GI issue sufferer. I had my first colonoscopy, endoscopy, a couple of years ago at 28 and suffered through multiple GI episodes, which is gastrointestinal, in case you guys don't know. In my mid-20s, I lost over 20 pounds over 2 months one time. Not fun. Luckily, I don't have any serious ailments, and most of the time it's related to stress. Stay strong, brother. Don't be stressed, man. Too much good out there, man. Do some yoga. Do 4 minutes of I really want to try doing 4 minutes of meditation every day. I tried it for a week, and I felt really good, but I stopped.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so, and look, man, it was self-induced. That was the biggest problem. Like, I've been eating really, Aslan can tell you, I've been eating well.
Clean.
I feel like I'm in probably maybe the best shape of my life. Like, I'm really working out a lot, and I'm trying to eat well and eat healthy. I'm only drinking water, and with a splash of vodka in there, but mostly water. And then Sunday, I decided I was going to have a cheat day. So I got myself a bag of Cheetos, but a small bag, like a little bag you'd get in a vending machine. But then I also got chili cheese Fritos. And this was not a small bag. This was one you'd have in your pantry, a big one, like family size. I ate, a third of the bag that day. And I was like, you know what? And I'll eat another third the next day and another third the day after that. And then I decided, you know what? This was Monday night. It's like I'd been eating a few here and there all day, and then I still had half a bag left. And you're like, you know what? I'm watching Ozarks. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm just gonna house the rest of this because then I won't eat it the rest of the week. I'm gonna eat it all. It's my cheat day anyway. I'm gonna eat our cheat 48 hours, and I'm gonna eat everything out. I'm gonna eat it all and be done with it. So I essentially ate half a bag to 2/3 of a bag of Fritos, and weirdly, my stomach told me to go F itself. It told me to go F myself.
Good.
It was that was really
yourself.
dumb. It was really, really dumb. Just horribly stupid. And so I kind of did it to myself. And I'm not happy with the reaction my stomach had. That still worried me. But I'm more unhappy with what I did. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just done. Not even any more cheat days.
You relapse.
Just screw that. Yeah, I'm not relapsing anymore.
My question is, what is the funniest prank a Warchant employee has played on another Warchant employee?
Oh. We're not really a pranking type of I'm trying to think. You would think Ira and I have known each other for 20-something years now, 23 years. I don't know that I've ever pranked him.
Yeah.
I should, but I don't know. You got one? Have you?
No,
you haven't
I'm trying to think.
me,
I've been on the road with Langston, but I don't think I've ever pranked him on anything. But maybe I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll pull a prank on Langston. Don't listen to this, Langston. Wanted to catch you by surprise.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe one time.
I guess the Mims thing. Ira with the Mims thing. That was a good prank. That was solid. But no, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
We grind, man. We have fun on we cut it up on this show, but when the mics are off, we just grind. Primetime 90. We just grind.
And we don't talk to we really don't like to talk to each other when we're not doing the show. We have to keep it fresh.
All right, we got plenty more questions, and we're about at the hour mark. So let's hustle.
Let's quicken it. Let's quicken the pace. Here we go.
NYC_Nole_2. What's his avatar, Corey?
Paul Gleason from Breakfast Club.
Nope.
Gosh darn it! Old Charlie Ward,
yeah.
92 Charlie Ward.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna remember it. I'll remember it.
Wake up, gentlemen. Corey, you made a great point last week about the calculus changing for entering the draft early. Now with NIL being a factor, we can do the math. He provides 2 examples. Let's go here. I'll see if I can figure it out. NFL league minimum guaranteed is $680,000. Your tax rate probably about 40%. Also including state taxes and stuff. He's saying living expenses are going to probably eat into about 30% of that. So at that league minimum guaranteed $680,000, you're probably taking home $200,000. versus an NIL sponsorship at $250,000. The tax rate will be about 20%. We're assuming that you're going to be in one of the southern states in the SEC footprint, and you're only paying your federal taxes, which would only be if you live in Florida. I'm pretty sure. Don't you have federal tax in Georgia? I know in Mississippi and Alabama there is.
I don't know. I don't remember because
right.
I file in Florida now, so okay. I don't remember.
Right. Your living expenses are probably only 10%. You don't have any rent. You don't have to worry about food. So of that $250,000, you're losing a much smaller portion. So basically, in this example, you take home about $175,000 on an NIL sponsorship versus $200,000 on an NFL paycheck. If you didn't read this because it was too long, the calculus actually changes for the fringe players such that they can maximize earning potential by staying in school. Take another year, clip the NIL money, maybe you'll increase your draft stock and probably still get that undrafted league minimum, worst case, even if you don't move up on draft day, plus whatever you pocket from NIL. I guess some people could argue that worst case you get hurt and you don't, your career is over. But that's a pretty drastic example. Hopefully someone starts sharing this perspective with the kids instead of taking advantage of their dreams to go pro and putting them in suboptimal situations. Thanks for all you do and keep up the good work. Go Noles.
I definitely think that's being shared with them, as it should be. Again, the North Carolina basketball, Kentucky basketball are the best examples, but it will become more of a thing in college football because, if you're a fringe player, if you're a fringe like 6th-round pick or 5th-round pick and you go pro, you could have stayed that year, pocketed like we just talked about, $150,000, $175,000, and then live that very next life the next year. But there's also no guarantee you're going to make that NFL team. And you could get hurt, and you get that $660,000 for that 1 year playing in the NFL, but then you're done. There's no guarantee your career will go on because it's just a 1-year deal. It's not all guaranteed. Even if you sign a 3-year deal, only one of them is guaranteed. So in some cases, it's a calculus that they really, the calculations that these parents and these families and these handler guys all have to figure out before they put their name in the draft and forsake any NIL money for the rest of their lives.
All right, random_John, good morning, Azan and Corey. Hope as you read this, you have celebrated a not American holiday and are at the very least tipsy. Regarding
not
taco, go ahead. Sorry,
I was just going to say not yet. Well, we're going to get there.
Regarding tacos, I eat them as the street vendors in Mexico serve them, soft. On Thursday night, we are drinking homemade margaritas. As for my question for this week, if you could go back in time and make the hiring decision the year Willie Taggart was hired, who would you have hired instead? Lane Kiffin. Do you honestly believe that person would have been the long-term solution, or do you feel we would have been moving on to another coach by now? What would be the reason for your choice? I think he would have been all right. I think he would have probably had a 10-win season by now, which would have probably kept him around. I don't think he would have missed out on bowl games, which has been the problem here. Like if Willie made a bowl, if they would have gone 6-6, if they would have somehow miraculously beat Florida and made it to a bowl game, even with them piddling around the following season, he probably we'd been to bowl games. We never had losing seasons. All these things happen your first year, and in the second year, it's on track, and you're not recruiting well, and you look a little bit disorganized and stuff off the field doesn't add up. You're coaching a man under, and you don't think it's a problem. These are problematic. I don't think Lane Kiffin would have had that kind of hubris or naivete to fall into that trap. But that wasn't a really robust hiring cycle, I don't think. I can't think of a lot of guys off the top of my head that got hired when Willie did. I mean, Scott Frost, I think, in Nebraska, that wasn't a really great hire, clearly, so far.
Cristobal?
Yeah, I mean, would he? But
he replaced Willie.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have left Oregon. I mean, he wasn't on anybody's radar.
No, I know. I'm just saying he was one. I was just thinking of the cycle, and he was one of the ones that got a head coaching job that year.
I think Tom Herman was already gone, I think, by then, or maybe he got hired at the same time. But like, you weren't going to. He was Texas just made sense for him. Lane's that's the only other guy that when it was happening, I remember being like, I wouldn't mind having Lane Kiffin. But, Willie sounded good on paper, man. I fell hook, line, and sinker for all of it. Coming home, fast offense. I didn't realize that he wasn't the architect of it and kind of just cribbed it from the Briles family. And the Harbaugh endorsement really was it for me. I love Jim Harbaugh. I'll follow that guy to the depths of hell. And he endorsed Willie Taggart. I'm like, that's good enough for me.
It wasn't good enough for us, was it?
It was not. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I think Kiffin's. I think Kiffin's a good answer just because.
You laughed at me, Corey. One of our first shows. I was like, I like.
Well, no, it was more about like, man, that guy still got some. He still had to prove himself that he could, because he'd been fired and disgraced.
But
at USC,
he went to Alabama, second active.
I'm not. But the
but
resurrection.
Then he went to FAU and turned them into. He won the conference title in 2 years. I mean, that's,
but it was still. Again, I'm just saying that he had. It wasn't a. Clearly, there were other schools that could have hired him, including Florida, that didn't because of the name. Like he still scared people away because how bad he handled Tennessee and how bad he was at USC. That people were like, man, this guy's he's a weirdo. We can't trust this dude. He's just a weird kid, a weird guy, and he hasn't proven himself at the D1 level at a place like Florida State. Not that Willie had either, but Willie at least had coached at Oregon. But yeah, I mean, I think looking back now in hindsight, the one thing that Lane Kiffin would have done at Florida State was have an offense that would score some points, a lot of points, because that's what his offenses do. And that's still what we're missing here. Hopefully it gets figured out. But they might have gone 3-9 and had the worst defense in the country. Not that Florida State kind of had the worst defense in the country either way. But they would have scored points with Lane Kiffin. But you just didn't know because he had he's so rough around the edges in certain areas, in certain ways. And had not proven to be maybe the most mature guy in the world. And then, got fired at the tarmac at USC. He was still a little toxic, but now he's proven himself again. And yes, Florida State, if they could go back in time, you probably go ahead and see what Lane Kiffin can do for you.
If he would have been hired in 2018, do you think he's still the head football coach of Florida State right now?
Yes.
Yeah. Also, my wife and I are going to New Orleans next week. Where is your must-eat and your must-drink spot? All right. I'll probably go a little too touristy, so if there's any New Orleanians listening to this, New Orleans, go ahead and tag me on Twitter or something, and we can maybe pass it to John. I love the Ruby Slipper Cafe in the Central Business District for like brunch. Any day of the week you're there, the next morning, go grab brunch from there. It's great. I think you should hit up Pato's. I think you should hit up Drago's, and maybe go to the Hotel Monteleone and go to the Carousel Bar and just. It's nice. You and the wife at the Carousel Bar, maybe even not sitting at the Carousel, just the entire bar is a very sort of hip, elite, luxurious feel, but it's affordable. It's nothing too crazy. So those are kind of my picks.
And don't forget the dungeon.
Yes.
We're still not quite sure maybe what that scene is like, but give it a try and report back to us what the dungeon is. What's the deal with the dungeon? I can't remember the name. I'm awful with names of restaurants. Emerald has a few places there, but his newest one is one Stephanie and I went to 2 or 3 years ago. And I maybe he's got 3 more since then. But it's like casual. It's not like a dress you up really fancy place, but it's a nice casual restaurant, and it was really good. But I can't remember the name of it. And there was also a place inside a hotel. Can't remember the name of that either. So you didn't really ask the best people. You asked Aslan. He knows.
Shout out.
And if you want a beignet, get it from anywhere. You don't have to go to Café du Monde to get the beignet. There's a bunch of beignet shops you can go to.
Do not go to Coops. If somebody tells you to go to, I don't know if Coops is still open, but Coops, their whole thing is it's a dive bar, but they literally just berate you and make fun of you and are mean to you on purpose. The workers there. It's like
sounds great.
Some people like it. Like my buddy Ryan loves going to Coops, and I went there and I had no idea. I'm like, this is horrible. I don't like this.
Yeah, it's like Twitter in real life.
Yeah, it's touche. Everyone go to Corner Pocket, have a chicken wrap, wash it down with vodka and Powerade, and while you're there, use the Wi-Fi to subscribe to Warchant. I promise you, no one on the staff is going to deny you the ability to pay them money. Go Noles. Thanks, John. All right, 2 more. 3 more. I lied. We got Gator, and then on deck is Daryl, and in the hole is Dave from Bardstown, Kentucky.
All right.
Gator Kirk. Wake up, lads. No tacos, never margaritas. If I do tacos, either is fine. Thank you, Gator Kirk. Mm-hmm. Can FSU ask the NCAA to not rank the baseball team, regardless of their record? It seems to be bad mojo. Let's live each day to the fullest and cherish our blessings. Go Noles. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, amen. And, that was a horrific performance on Tuesday at Stetson. Baseball's weird. I get it. But they are so bad in midweek games. They are bad on the road. They can't hit on the road, it doesn't seem. And they've got to go on the road this weekend to Boston College. Hopefully they'll do better than – they have 2 hits and 3 errors.
Yes.
Yeah, great. After a nice weekend, a really impressive weekend, they go on the road, and I'm just tired. I can't write or have an opinion on this team anymore. Just we'll see at the end of the year where they end up because it's impossible to predict.
They were top 5, and then they got swept by Notre Dame, and then I think they lost to Georgia Tech the next weekend, and they claw their way back into the top 25 with that series.
Just get shut out by Stetson. Who not a good Stetson team either, folks. If you're wondering, like, oh, is this a surprise? Is this a team that could get to Omaha? No, it's not a Stetson team will even be in the postseason, most likely.
They're now lost 5-0. They were 3 games below 500. Now they're 2 games below 500.
Yep, there you go.
Daryl, Thomasville, North Carolina. Good afternoon, Aslan and Corey. Hope you two are having a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, Daryl.
Thanks, Betty.
I like how he always says afternoon because he knows how we roll.
He knows the deal. He knows the drill.
I've read where Coach Mike Norvell has said that he is going to take between 7 to 10 players during the summer. With that being said, we know linemen are a must, and I say we probably take 4. What say you? But that leaves us with 6 positions left. What are the most important in both your opinions? Thank you for all you do and keeping us updated on FSU sports. By the way, congrats to the softball team for taking down those lizards from Gainesville the other night. Yep. Support those that make this podcast possible. Hit the thumbs up button. Support FSU Athletics. Sign up for Warchant. If you're not a member, go Noles. God bless. God bless you, Daryl. Thank you, man.
I would say, O-line, receiver, defensive line, preferably on the edge. Those would be my 3. I can't believe he's going to take 7 guys in the summer. I don't know how those numbers work out. That would be really hard for me to believe. But I do think they're going to take there's probably there's 2 or 3 maybe that'll still be coming this summer. But I don't think it's going to be like a 7 or 8 person thing here.
Yeah, they had a JUCO defensive back on campus this week, which I talked about it with Ira. Just they're not. And then it's not like you've said too on the podcast. That's not like the Dome Patrol back there. This isn't just the absolute greatest secondary, but just felt they're pretty good there. But at the same time, we can't conflate that with the fact that just because they have a JUCO defensive back there doesn't mean they think, oh, we're good at offensive line.
Right. Yeah.
They can do these things simultaneously. But I would say, offensive lineman, and I would probably put edge rush above wide receiver. Although I think it's probably more practical. You're probably going to find you have better odds of finding a productive wideout than you do finding a productive edge rusher
at this stage of the game. Probably, yeah.
So that's where we're at. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate it, man. Good to hear from you as always. All right, let's go to Dave and his 3 paragraphs. Bourbon is your friend. Gentlemen, I will forego my usual math problem, seeing as how I goofed my own equation last week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Math will humble all of us.
Yeah, it really will.
Actually, I just misremembered the details, but one should always check their work, so still, shame on me. Yeah, you are a doctor. I hope you don't misremember the details.
Get it together.
Check your work. All right, the softball game was awesome on Wednesday night. I am traveling with work right now and staying in a hotel. I watched the game in my room, and when Janai Kerr hit that home run to end the game, I forgot myself and let out a big yes. I then chuckled at my own lack of composure. It seems like Kat Sandercock is pitching every time I watch FSU softball. Yeah, if they're playing, she's probably pitching. That's how it works, man. She's a machine.
Yeah, her or Danielle Watson, those are the 2.
Not that I'm complaining, of course. She is clearly awesome, but I was curious about typical softball pitching rotations and how often they can pitch compared to baseball. It does seem like it would be hard to recruit a pitcher when you've got one that's so dominant holding things down. I did see Danielle Watson pitch last season in the postseason. Also, how was that 5th largest crowd if there were people standing outside on bridges and behind fences? Do they count the overflow people? They do not. They just count the paid, ticketed audience. If not, that could have been the largest crowd ever, you think? Did you see the kid who caught the ball and hit it under his shirt? He looked kind of worried that they were going to take it from him. I hope he got to keep it. I tuned in late. They showed the kid later on in the game. They're like, oh, remember this kid? And he looked sheepish.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sure he kept the ball. If memory serves me right, and often, all right, so let's go to the softball question. Then he's got a question about coaches. Do you know the ins and outs of throwing mechanics in softball and how many pitchers can go versus baseball.
Yeah, it's not anything close. It doesn't resemble baseball at all. Like you're not putting a lot of stress on your arm by throwing an underhand. You're just not. It's more of a natural motion. And yeah, so most of these softball schools or softball teams, they'll have two. They'll have their main person, and then they'll have, the one that'll pitch the middle game of a 3-game series. But Sandercock would usually pitch game 1 and game 3 or something like that. But, I'm looking at the stats right now. Sandercock has pitched 162 innings, and Danielle Watson has pitched 109 innings. So it's not, it's probably, she pitches, two innings to Watson's 1. So, again, that comes out to, like, Sandercock's the better pitcher. She's awesome. She's one of the best in the country. She's 25-1. She pitches game 1 and game 3. Watson will pitch game 2, but also Watson will occasionally come in relief for her. They're not all like, so Sandercock has started only 20 games, but appeared in 36. So she's had 16 appearances out of the bullpen, and Watson has had 7 appearances out of the bullpen. And now that they've got Mac Leonard kind of in the mix too, they're spreading their pitches out. But I think normally when a pitcher like softball, I talked to Lonnie about this, they don't really take them out of the game because their arm is tired necessarily. It's because the team has timed her up, and they just want to give the other team a different look. So like Danielle Watson was warming up on Saturday night because I stood behind the bullpen. She warmed up the final 3.5 innings of that game. Like if Sandercock would have gotten in any trouble at all, they would have brought her in because they would have wanted Florida to have a different look, but they didn't. And so there's not the wear and tear. It's not like Parker Messick where you would never pitch him game 1 and game 3 and have him relieve a little in game 2. Like Sandercock's probably going to throw 12 to 14 innings every weekend. Just because that's across the board for all the good schools in the country. They have their one main person, like Alabama has that Montana Fouts girl. They all have their main starter, but they also have that secondary starter, and that's what makes Florida State so good, is their secondary starter, Danielle Watson, is really, really good too.
Awesome.
That explained it, right?
Crushed it, man.
Yeah.
All right. And on the way out, last one from Dave. If memory serves me right, often it does not, Mike Norvell's about 39 years old right now. He's actually 40. If I'm not mistaken. I think he turned 40 last year. Corey, given your powers of emotional connection with Coach Norvell, could you orchestrate a Mike Gundy-type tirade this coming season when he's 40? Oh, well, I should have read this all. No, he's already 40, so we missed the boat on that one.
Well, I could get him to say, I'm a man, I'm 41.
Okay. At least something they could turn into one of those old Coors Light head coach press conference commercials would be nice. Oh, yeah, remember those? Those are good commercials.
Those were funny.
Nice. Then we can watch you guys watch it together a year from now.
Yeah. I want to make that an April, a regular April or May, early May tradition at Warchant. Is Mike and I just watching one of our questions together.
Can you imagine? Like, I think it was Jenny Carlson that he went after, Mike Gundy.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like Mike Gundy? Not even now. Not even 15 years removed from it. Could you imagine him? Like 8 months later, sitting down with Jenny Carlson to like watch. I mean, it was a little bit. That was embarrassing.
But Norvell's was different. Like, that was very negative. That was Mike Gundy negative. Like this was a positive moment in Mike Norvell's. But yeah, that would be fun. Like that had to be 10 or 12 years ago at this point. 15 years ago maybe.
Yeah, Bobby Reed was like it was 2005, 2004 recruiting class.
Yeah, so they should get together and watch it and go over it now.
Maybe we should.
By the way,
and
he did lose his mind.
Let's just do that. You should do that as a spinoff. You should go revisit all these coaches and just like be their soothsayer and just relive all these moments and like you just talk to him about it. We'll
talk to him about it.
A franchise.
Because like the thing is like Gundy obviously lost his mind, but that column was awful. It was a ridiculous piece of quote unquote journalism. It was just ridiculous.
It was so over the top, like melodramatic.
Just how soft he is. Look how soft this kid is. He has a mom feeding him a sandwich on the tarmac. This is how soft he is. And it's like, man, I just don't feel right. Like to call somebody soft. Like you can say they're not any good, but just the whole implication was he was just this soft kid that you couldn't win with. And it just the whole thing wasn't great. But then Gundy certainly didn't handle it the best either. So it was good stuff.
All right, that's it. We're done. It's a wrap. But we got plenty more going on over at warchant.com throughout the weekend. Recruiting updates, hot boards, courtesy of Michael Langston. I think Austin Cox probably, I don't know. I know he comes and goes. He's here. He's not here. He's here all the time. It's crazy.
Right.
God bless that kid. Softball, are they still in action? I mean, that was just their
Yeah, they got
non-conference
NC State finishing it up, and then it's the ACC tournament. So they have the one last regular season series up in Raleigh, and then they head to I assume the ACC tournament's in North Carolina somewhere. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that, and they'll be doing that next week.
And softball will be taking on baseball. I'm sorry, will be taking on Boston College. In BC, so we'll wrap that up over the weekend. Probably have Michael Langston talking about stuff as well. Take it back, Corey. 2022 ACC Softball Championship is at Varda Bedian Field in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Wow, what? How about that, Aslan? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I'll get some good crowds.
Pittsburgh in May, beautiful.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, it was 1999 Hubert Meisel column in the Tampa Bay Times, which was the St. Petersburg Times back then. The headline was Gators Gimmicks Fruitless. And it talks about somebody throwing a lemon on the field.
Oh,
during
there you
that
go.
game.
All right.
So Spurrier said it wasn't us. It was one of them that threw it because that makes sense.
Right.
All right, we're done. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening this entire week. Tell a friend about the show. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. Leave a 5-star rating and review. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you again for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.